Welcome back, guys. In this tutorial, I'll be teaching you on how to create a database, how to create a table, and how to insert into a table. So to create a database on SQL, you go with the syntax, create database, then you give your database a name. So this is the syntax for creating a database. So like I said in the previous video, database is like a file name that is used to store our tables and views. So now I'm trying to create a database here. So I'm going to follow this syntax, create database, then I'll give it a name. So your database name could be anything. You could use your name, anything. So I'm going to be creating a database called student. So create database, then I'm giving my database a name called student. Now I'm going to highlight that particular cell, which is row 2, and run it. So now I've successfully created a database, which is called a student. Can you see this green tag here? Once you run your query, you are going to have an action output here that says that gives you this green tag. So create database student means I've successfully created a database named student. So if I refresh this page, I have a lot of database here, but if you refresh your system from your end, you are going to see where you have student. Can you see my student? So now that I've created a database, the next thing for me is to create a table. And a table consists of rows and column. What I just created now is a file name. Now I'm going to create a table that is going to have my row header and my rows and my column headers. So to create a table, I'm going to go by create table, then give it a name, students table. So create table, student table, you open a bracket. This bracket is what is going to contain your column headers alongside with their data types. So create table, the table name is student table, then I open the bracket. So the first column I want to have there is the student ID. So I'm writing my student ID. And while you are creating a table, you need to have a data type. A data type is a way of classifying the data stored in a variable or a column. Now, this is a column header, student ID. And the student ID is always in form of like 1, 2, 3, 4. They're always in form of whole number. So anytime you are dealing with whole number, you always make use of integer, like I said in the previous video. So this is an integer column. So I'll be writing int as my data type because student IDs, they are whole numbers, comma. Then I want to have my student name. Student name is in form of text. So I can either have varchar, char, or text as my data type because the 3 data type works with any column that has to do with strings. So now, student's name. So I will be using varchar to represent that data, that column. So varchar and 225. So the reason I'm using 225 here is because when you are using a varchar or a char data type, it takes in a size. So the student's name can be, let me say my name is Anifat. My Anifat has 8 characters. So if I specify 8 into this box, I'm saying that any name I'm trying to write in that column must not be above 8. So you can actually write 20, 25, 30. You can just write any number you want to write. Just make sure that the name you are entering in that column does not exceed the number you specify in this column. Then I want to have like the department. Department soup is also a string column. So I can either use varchar, char, or text. So if I'm using char too, I'm going to specify the size. I'm going to specify the size, then comma. Then also I want to have something like amounts paid. So amount paid is either, it could be an integer column or a floating column. I mean, number that has decimal points. So, well, this is is an integer column, so I'll be making use of int. Then I think I just want to have just 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think 4 column headers is fine. So now that I'm done with my column headers, I open the bracket here, so I need to close it back. So now that I close it back, if you notice, my error tag, this red tag would go away once I close my bracket. That means I've written the correct query. So from this crate, I've already run this database, the student database. I already have it here and it's still empty. So now I'm going to run from my create table statement down to this point here, then run it. So now it's giving me an error that no database selected. So meaning that the query doesn't know where to go, doesn't know the database to enter. So now I'm going to pass in a command. So whenever you are trying to write a new statement, you always make use of your semicolon. Semicolon is used to separate a statement. This is a statement here. This is one statement. I separated it, and this is another statement here. So because I want to write another command, I'm going to say use the name of the database that I want to use, which is student. So use students. Use students. So once I say use student, I'm going to run that line, then go back to run this. So once I run this one is going to go through because I've already called out the database this particular table is entering. So now that I've run the table statement, the table statement is going to go inside this database. So if I refresh this schemas here, I'm going to have like my student table here. Can you see? So now to see what I just did, to see what I did, column headers I just created, I can just say there is a command for it. Select star. Star means all. So select everything from the name of your table, not your database, your table name, which is student table. Then I'm going to run it. So can you see what I just created? The student ID, student's name, department, and amount paid. It was this query here that gave us that output. So select star, which is select everything from student table. I'm asking it to call out everything inside this student table. So now we've created a column header. Now I want to insert rows into my column header. So now I'm going to say, now this is another statement. I need to separate it with a semicolon. Then to insert record into that table, so I'm going to use the command insert. So insert into, the name of the table is students table. Insert into students table. SQL is not case sensitive, but what you have as your student name is what you are going to call it out with. If you write, if it was students table, you are going to write students table, but it's not case sensitive. If you use capital letter here, you can actually use small letter here also. So insert into students table. Then I'm going to call out the column headers I have there, which is student ID, comma, student name, comma. I have the department and then the amount paid. So those are the 4 column headers I have. Then going with values. So this is the syntax you use when you are trying to insert records into your table. So insert into the name of the table, which is students table. Then you call out all the column headers, then followed by values. Now I'm going to follow the column headers one after the other. The first column I have there is student ID, which is 1, comma. Then student's name could be, let's say, Anita. So anytime you are dealing with a string, a text, you always quote a text, but we don't quote number. So I'm not quoting my 1 because it's an integer, but I'm quoting Anita because Anita is a text. So comma. Then the student department is also a text. So I'm quoting that also. Then also the amount paid, let's say 190,000. That is a string, an integer, so I don't need to quote it. Then close the brackets. So this is like the first record of student row 1, comma. For row 2, I'm going to open the bracket, follow the same method, 2, comma. Then let's have Adeola, comma, department of, let's say, product design. Then 230,000. So I'm just going to insert 4 records. So same thing for row 3, 3, comma. Let's use below, comma, is in web development, comma, and he has paid 140,000. So let's say I just want to enter this 3 column and 3 rows. I've run this one, so I'm going to start from the insert statement again. I'm going to highlight from here down to this point and run. So I'm having an error, unknown column, student name in feed. So can you see now? I wrote student name here and I called out student name. So it's telling me that I don't have anything as such in my feed list. So I need to correct this by putting the S. So insert into student table, then I'm going to run it again. So now it has gone through. So to see what I just did, it's still the same syntax by saying select star from student table. I can actually write it again, but because I already have it here, I can run it from here since I can still see it. So then I'm going to run it. Now look at it. I have my column headers and the students, my rows. So this is just how to create a database, how to create a table, and how to insert into a table. Thank you.